Hello, everyone. It's me, Kirsten, and this is the It's Giving Mystical podcast for August of 2026. Thank you for your patience with me. I'm sorry this is late. Life is very full right now. All good things, but the summer and the spring and the summer have just been uh, relentless. And I don't even mean any negativity by that, just that every day has been this is what has to happen today. And I'm grateful for a full and happy and abundant life and lots of people to love and take care of. And sometimes I have to reshuffle priorities. And in August, that is definitely here with me. And I wonder if it's here with you as well. The words that I would highlight for us in August are gentleness, sustainability, and allowing the river to flow, which sounds very, very poetic and dramatic. But there is something about watching life transform. There's something about anticipation or buildup. We really do have to recall that we're in this Wheel of Fortune year and we're in this Fire Horse year. And the wood snake last year did a lot of work pulling away the old skin. And now, as a new being with the sensitive skin in the world, we move out into 2026 and the world reshuffles to respond to this newness. It reshuffles to meet us in this new place. It does so rapidly. It doesn't feel like it might not feel like it this year. You might be like, why am I still running in circles around this one thing? But a lot's going to happen this year. So, wherever you are, maybe you're feeling the pace, the speed of it, like I am. I feel the intensity of it. Maybe you're also feeling the frustration. In August, I think a lot of that is soothed. I think our hearts are soothed in August. And what's very interesting is that we know that with this fire horse year in Leo season, with the eclipses being in this Leo Aquarius axis, with Leo being in the place of the South Node, there's something about fire, about heat, about solar energy, about masculine drive, power that feels like it's supposed to be the thing. It feels like it's supposed to be what power is. And something about August helps remind us that power comes in many shapes, and there are things that are powerful in one context that are a detriment in others, things that are enlivening in one context that are depleting in others. And so, this question of sustainability becomes a personal inquiry for you, for me, for the world. And it's one of those words that holds so many layers at once. But one of the things we're being asked to do cosmically, spiritually, universally, is to consider how sustainable our life is. This negotiation, again, over the past couple of years of bringing our bodies onto the page when it comes to sacredness. So, understanding that our bodies are sacred gifts and that so much of our culture, so much of the way that we're encouraged to run is at the expense of our bodies. So it says to you, sacrifice your body for today so that you can relax tomorrow. Sacrifice your comfort for some idea of the way you're supposed to look or it's supposed to be. And we medicate and self soothe and run our bodies at a pace that goes against their nature. And the culture, the community that we live in, this world that we live in, gives us so many ways to override the body and the phone, right? I'm sad and lonely. Well, we just take my phone and look at it for a few minutes. And the ache of our hearts doesn't disappear. We just kind of soothe over it or band-aid over it. And so much of what we've, I hope, reconnected with on, again, for each of us, it's different, but on some level, is wow, my body's actually on my side and it's giving me these messages for a reason. And it's in pain here for a reason. And it's aching for something else for a reason, and it's uncomfortable in this situation for a reason, and it tightens up in this dynamic for a reason, and it loosens and relaxes in this place I didn't expect it to. Our bodies they're such sensitive animals, and if we're willing to not numb out, not cover up that sensitivity, it is the greatest gift. And I say that because this sustainability, for many of us, lives we've built have come at the cost of overriding something important that our body needs or is asking of us. And this question of sustainability becomes, can I live a life that I am safe to inhabit, that I enjoy inhabiting? That's a pretty profound spiritual question to ask yourself, pretty profound bar measurement of how you're living. And one of the things I notice is that I'll meet someone and we'll have a conversation and with work or just out in the world. And they'll be like, oh, I really want to work with you. I really want to do some energy work. I really want to learn more about what you're saying. And they won't. And maybe they just don't like me, which is fine. But there's this idea of I'm both seeking something that will offer me the change that I'm craving or some container in which I can experience myself in a new way. And yet I'm afraid. I'm afraid. What does it mean to look with eyes wide open? That's a lot to ask of anyone. So I may say that because wherever you are, it's the right place. Wherever you are in this conversation around sustainability, around your body, around what you've been told success looks like, how you've been told your body's supposed to run, what you've been told about gentleness, what you've been told about solar energy versus lunar energy, all of that, it's valid, but I'm sure that it's present. Of that, I know to be true. And so just having that question as this year, we've hit the second half of the year, is where does sustainability matter for myself, for my earth, for my community, for my family, in the broadest or in the most flexible way? Where is sustainability echoing in your space right now, and what is it asking of you? I would say it's an important bellwether. It's a flag that's waving for a reason. And then this other question around gentleness and gentleness's correlation with power, having these impactful, powerful changes from this place of profound gentleness and peace and quiet. The classic, the water dripping on a stone. The stone seems like the powerful one in that circumstance, but we know that the water, the gentle drip, will eventually wear away the stone. The Strength card, which is the card that's with us in August, always asks us to think differently about power, to consider where gentleness and peace and kindness and softness and naivete and vulnerability, where those things come in the conversation around power. And this year, while we have the Strength card, we also have the Moon card. Those two cards together, they're just very, very quiet. Very, very quiet energies. The 8 and the 18, see these guys together. The wolf, the dog, the lion, these animal spirits are with us. Lobster. Lobster doesn't seem like your go-to spirit animal. Like when you say to people, what's your spirit animal? Most people are not going to throw lobster out there, but I'm just going to throw it out there. Crayfish, lobster. What do the crustaceans have to teach us about life? What do the crustaceans have to teach us about power and about gentleness? There's something interesting there. And the crayfish always comes up with the moon card. The classic story with that is that the crayfish in the tarot represents the leap towards evolution. So the crayfish is, am I going to make this leap? Am I going to jump towards what is calling me? Or do I need to kind of retract for a moment? Do I need to crawl back into the warm waters and just stay a crayfish? Which the tarot would call an unevolved being. And I would even challenge that. I would even question that. Maybe that's something you want to think about. I keep seeing lobsters, which is, again, not something I would think about until I'm saying it out loud. But in the last week, 4 people have sent me lobster images. And then I saw this ring that I really liked, and the central image was a lobster. And I was like, what a funny thing to put on a signet ring. So, okay, I'm going to spend some time with lobster, but maybe you should think about that too. Is there a crustacean that's been in your face that you might want to spend some time working with their medicine, their energy? Okay, but I'm off track, as I tend to do. The 8 card, the Strength card, is about her gentleness taming the wild beast. So it is the image of the maiden, the innocent one, negotiating, wrangling, communicating, controlling. It really depends how you interpret the lion. And the lion, there's something about the lion as a representative of fierce protection, Christ consciousness energy. And again, I say that without any stickiness around Christ or around the church. So if we can let that go, let that go. What is the idea of becoming so powerful because we have lit the space of the eye of the heart, and how that changes our sight, our vision, our movement? And so when the 8 card comes up, when the strength card comes up, again, in the traditional card, it was called force. So it's a question of, how do you exert force? What impacts the world? What is power? When you think about the things that have moved you, what's moved you more? Like brute force, animal power, or something more gentle, more subtle, more soft, more vulnerable? And there's something really lovely about what we find motivating, and again, how power plays itself out in our lives. And especially at this moment, Leo, South Node, where leadership and power have been abused or corrupted, what we're evolving past in terms of leadership and power, and where we're headed as a people, as humanity, as individuals, again, as communities and families. There's something really lovely about this idea of a softer power, and where true power comes from, and what we want to protect as we notice where power lies, what is beautiful, what is inspiring, what lights us up, and what is that? How do we want to structure our lives around that? And I know that sounds kind of vague, but I mean it to be such, because I want it to be something you can use as a reflective point in your own life and in your own movements. This question, I think Chani Nichols asked it on her podcast this week, like, where am I being asked to lead? What am I being asked to be of service to? Because true leadership is to be of service to something, to be devoted to something. And then where is my leadership expired, or where does my leadership not appropriate anymore? And those are really beautiful questions to ask yourself as we enter eclipse season. The 8 is also the number of material success. And material success is the way it's translated, but it's the larger idea that as above, so below. It's the larger idea that with intention comes manifestation, with concentration and consolidation of thought, of power, comes result. Things are born from that. And the 18, the moon card, is how I encounter power, how I encounter as above, so below, how I encounter my ability to manifest. And that's interesting because the 18, the moon card, is about our maternal line. So it's about how loved we feel, how safe we feel, how protected we feel, how we know that we can want and create, and that we do so within the embrace of the Divine Mother. And whether that's your experience or not is a whole other conversation. But for this engagement with the card, it's this idea of the mother energy allows us to dream bigger. And the mother energy allows us to want to create something that maybe hasn't existed before. So the 1 and the 8, when they meet, you would think the 1 and the 8 meeting together is like magician and chariot, like, oh, we're super engaged, powerful now, but it's not. It creates this kind of liminal space. It creates this kind of foggy place where something new is being created. And again, back to the crayfish, something is being asked of you. You're being asked to evolve, to become, to step forward, to choose, again, with eyes wide open, what you want to create and how you want to create it. And again, so you want to create something that is sustainable for yourself, that doesn't deplete your life force day after day. And you want to create something that has a kind of gentleness to it, so that it feeds you, so that it feels good to inhabit that life. It feels good to inhabit that place. It feels good to inhabit that version of you. It's a really beautiful invitation that the moon gives us. The moon in traditional interpretations would speak about dream time. It would speak about substances that close down our conscious mind. So you want to be aware of questions around sobriety. And I mean that again, like in its broadest terms. When the moon card is here, we're already a little bit confused. Another reason to keep yourself clean and sober as much as you can, because life gets foggy, life gets confusing, and we go through these movements, these seasons where things are a little bit harder to grasp. It's hard to maybe make sense or see the light, see the road lit up exactly ahead of you. You're like, is that what I think it is? That's always here with the moon card. And again, I said this on the weekly podcast, but having the strength in the moon card in this very solar heavy month, this very Leo heavy month, is interesting. And Aquarius is more at home. Aquarius, even though it's an air sign and it has not mystical, but forward thinking, the Iranian energy of like forward thinking, the future thinking, the community thinking. It's also not necessarily at home in the misty waters, and neither is the Leo energy. But there's something about the Strength card and the Moon card that just wants to remind you that knowing is overrated. Clarity is overrated. And this is coming from someone who loves clarity. I'm a big clarity is kindness person. I like to know what's what. I have my own issues around hypervigilance and control and keeping myself safe. So I'm not one who would normally be like, let's let it get murky. But there is something about this question of the mist, the fog, the detours, the getting lost a little bit, feeling a little unsure, not knowing, not being clear, not being certain, and staying with it anyway. There's something about the fogginess, the lack of clarity that actually has almost a fairy tale quality to it of I know it feels a little scary to not be able to see what's next, but what if there's something alchemical, there's something magical happening in this fog, in this mist? What if there's something about this detour that's really, really important? And so that's just here with us this month. Again, sustainability, gentleness, and I would say clarification, but not in a way that you necessarily expect. But there's something about the buildup over this 2026, these first 6, 7 months, that there's going to be little embers emerging in August that you can begin to orient around. And again, they might not be what you expected them to be. Like if you go back and look at what you were hoping to accomplish in this year, you might have 5 things listed, but in August, you're finding depth and connection and orientation around 5 completely different things. That's okay. We're going to trust that. We're going to maybe relax the part of us that feels like we're the only one who knows, or we have to know what to do next for it to be the right thing. We want to kind of allow ourselves to be surprised a little bit. The other cards I pulled for us are the 5 of Cups, the 9 of Pentacles, the Rue card in the herbal deck, which I just think is beautiful and has to do with protection. So this feels very protective. It feels this is where we can allow ourselves to relax a little bit and feel. And we also have the Owl card, like the Athenian energy. So there's just feels, this doesn't feel alone at all. So we talked about the mother energy. And if you want to hear me talk more about that, you can go listen to other previous moon podcasts. But there's something about the maternal line that gets activated. And normally that feels quite personal. Right now it feels less personal and it feels more like the divine mother, the benevolent universal mother, feeling the fact that we are shepherded, held, loved by something bigger than ourselves, that we're not doing this by ourselves. We're not doing this alone. The other card I pulled from the Wild Kuan Yin was The Little One Rises, which again, I just think is really beautiful. And again, there's something about gentleness. It's like the way that you can be so motivated by something vulnerable, like a child or an animal, or you can be so inspired by poetry or a work of art. These are these gentle, soft, vulnerable things that actually inspire, actually hold great potency and power. And there's something about when I pulled this card, I had a sense of you being your own divine mother in some way, protecting some part of you that maybe has been dormant for a little while or have squirreled away, and some part of you that is emerging that feels safe enough to emerge maybe for the first time, and what that's like. And there's a sense of awe, not just in the world, but you with yourself. Um, it's just interesting that the way the strength card always activates that, but it's here a little bit more potently, that there's some great power emerging, some heat, fire, power, potency emerging, that's emerging from this very soft, tender place. And there's that paradox is just here with us. And it makes me very, very curious. And then I pulled 2 archetype cards, but it was the Vessel and the Tear. And with the 5 of Cups being here with the Tear, there is something about grief. But there's something about, it feels like grief, but it feels like, you know how you feel after you have a super strong cry, like you just cry, 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 and then you're almost physically depleted or physically exhausted by it. But there's also a quiet and an emptiness that comes. When I pulled the tear in the vessel, I had that sense of being excavated, the grief or the sadness or the confusion kind of being purged or excavated or emptied out. And there is this space left. And something about that space feels like just like I've said this before, but like don't rush to fill that space. See what kind of bubbles up. If you imagine the vessel is emptied out, but it's connected to a spring and something else will bubble up. The purging, the excavation of this grief or whatever sadness you've encountered, whatever you come up against this month, but I would say this whole year, there's something about a new way of holding that empty space, and again, a curiosity about the empty space that's not rushing to fill it, that I think would really serve everyone this month. So in general, I think we're asking some big questions around power. We're asking some big questions around, again, sustainability. And connected to that sustainability is this sense of softness, gentleness with yourself, and really only allowing people in your space and in your proximity who you can trust to be gentle with you. There's something about kid gloves and maybe honoring for the first time that you deserve to be treated with gentle hands. It's so interesting how this conversation around the body has just been echoing for years for me and in what I teach and what I work with. But we really push ourselves. We really have been taught that our bodies are just a tool, just another cog in the machine, and it's so insidious. And so having some time to renegotiate that for yourself wherever you are in that process feels really important, and a recognition of, again, the sacred quality of you and how that's something that should be treated as such, and really extricating yourself from environments and relationships and people and dynamics and places and spaces that don't honor that you're human and you're tender and you're soft, and that's your power and your gift. And it doesn't need to be, again, numbed out or bandaged over or worked through or made to be wrong. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so that's what I have for us. Strengthen the moon. It just feels nonlinear, but it feels deeply nourishing and gifting. It feels like where you've been grasping or straining for clarity, you might come up empty in some way and then really surprised in other ways at what emerges in this month. Really relying on your ancestors, your angels, your guardians, your guides, because there is a lot of protection this month, and really trusting the detours and really trusting the side quests, trusting what life has for you right now. Don't get ahead of yourself. Let this be the rich playground. Let this be the place where you're inspired, where you find power, where you make the connection. Like that connection I just made about the lobsters that I hadn't been making. I don't know what I'm going to do with that, but I promise you I'm going to do something with it. There's something there for me. And there's some kind of communication with the universe, with my higher self. And we're talking about this a lot in Huntress right now. But this idea of becoming findable to yourself. So time is a river that flows in both directions, an essential tenet of shamanism and I would say also the quantum physicists, that time is not linear as we expect it to be. It's actually moving in both directions at once, if not more. And so we want to become findable to the version of ourself that is living on the highest timeline, or the timeline that we, ache to experience. And we become findable by staying still. We become findable by not rushing through to the next thing or pretending we want other than we do, or harming ourselves for some goal. I put this on Instagram the other day, but you need to take your ceremony seriously. You need to take the rituals of your day seriously, because they will make up your life. And if you look at what you do in a day, you will see the gods you serve, and you may or may not like what you see. But there's something about August where that gets foggy a little bit, that gets confusing a little bit, and you might be surprised at what emerges as like a North Star, as a clearing thing, as a movement towards consolidation versus fragmentation. It might be surprising what guides you forward, but something is coming to guide you forward if it hasn't already arrived. And again, it might not be what you think it's going to be. Power might look different this month. What is potent might look different this month than what you expected it to be. I send you guys so much love. I will do some individual readings right now, and hold, please. The bottom of the deck, we have the Nine of Cups and Chamomile. So again, like that's the wish fulfillment card. That's wishes coming true. And chamomile is gentleness, like supreme gentleness, inner peace, she says in this deck. So we want to trust that the universe hears us, that our higher self or whoever's further down the river is calling to us. As much as our past is inspiring us and speaking to us, so is our future. And we want to have faith that we are on our way to our wish fulfillment. The road just might not look like we thought it was going to look. And there's something really interesting about believing in that and the kind of subtle power of trusting the next step versus worrying about, how you're navigating. Is it the right kind of light? Am I clear enough? Do I know enough? You know enough to take a step forward. You know enough to attend to what's here with you now. Maybe that's enough. So that's a really beautiful message from the bottom of the deck. We're going to start with Leo, the Two of Swords, and Hibiscus Joy. That's a really interesting combination. Two of Swords is the horns of a dilemma. So it says to me, Leo, that you're debating something. And Two of Swords comes up when we're overworking a decision. So an example of that would be that should I stay or should I go, is like the classic one. And it can have to do with forcing, like dealing with the anxiety of the in-between by being, well, if I just decided, I would feel better. And it's just true that when there's a decision to be made, it's obvious there's a decision to be made. And we can spend a lot of time almost like creating a false sense of movement by being like, well, let me just think about it and debate it and wonder. It kind of is there a choice here or is there not a choice here? And with the joy card, it says, like, don't rob yourself of current joy by thinking about a future decision or crossroads or pivot point that might not exist right now. And if there is an existing decision to be made, an existing dilemma about which way to go, move towards joy. And that can be something super simple to say and super hard to execute. So it can be like, oh, I, need to get the bills paid, but I'm also really tired. I need to take a nap. A classic Kirsten one. But that thing would be like, what's going to bring me joy? Is joy going to be in completing this task, or is joy going to be in resting my body for a few minutes and getting cozy and holding myself with some tenderness for a little while? Both can bring you joy, but you're going to move according to what brings you joy and not according to some other measure. Like the measure this month is what brings me joy. Happy birthday, Leos. And then Virgo, we have the Magician and Rhodiola, I think, which is wisdom. Beautiful, Virgo. It just says that you're kind of in your clear thinking and your power. And I think that part of the eclipse is that Virgo Pisces axis finishing and the Leo Aquarius axis taking full form. So there can just be the sense of like clarification, knowing, empowerment that comes from whatever you've experienced over these last 18 months, whatever that nodal cycle has looked like for you. But there's something here, you feel really clear-headed. You feel like you know more than maybe you give yourself credit for. Wisdom and the Magician together are just embodied power. So really trust. If you're not feeling that sense of trust in yourself, Virgo, please do trust yourself. The Magician and the Wisdom just says to me that whatever you're calling for, manifesting, it's coming from a deeper sense of knowing, a deeper place, and highly encourage you to trust yourself this month. Libra, we have the Two of Swords, I think. Yeah, Two of Wands, actually, and Blue Lotus, Intuition. So this is interesting. It's not that different from what I was just saying about for Leo, for the Two of Swords. Two of Wands is different energy. Two of Wands is, I want to experience my power in the world. And the Two of Wands, and Libra, this is different for you because usually you're kind of like negotiating what's good for me, what's good for us. There's this kind of natural orientation to something, a larger harmony than yourself. The Two of Wands is very much like, I want to know that I have power in the world. And it's learning to trust that power. It's learning to balance and trust and create from that place. with intuition, the Two of Wands and intuition just says to me that that might be part of your internal dialogue right now. Like, I want this. Can I trust myself? Can I trust that I want this? You could be having thoughts this month, Libra, about like, is this selfish to want this? Is this am I wrong to trust myself in this way? Am I wrong to look to the horizon and have desire around this thing? For some reason, it feels like there could just be a conversation with yourself where you're debating, am I allowed to just want this because I want it? Am I allowed to fight for this just because I want to fight for it? And I don't necessarily need to understand how it's going to serve the community, how it's going to bring others harmony. There's this quality of questioning what you're allowed to keep for yourself, and kind of this conflict between what your intuition's telling you about what's right for you and the way your mind might be not quite sure how to frame it or tell that story. And so you can be having this it's almost like feels like an internal conflict. And Libra, what I'll just say to you is, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. What's good for you is good for the community, is good for harmony. So there's something about, but you have some kink in your system. It feels like the way I'm reading this, some kink in your system that around selfishness, around too much for yourself, around greediness that's trying to work itself out. And part of the movement towards whatever you're desiring is a way for you to teach yourself that it's okay for you to want, and that actually serves the people you love, the spaces you love, the harmony you're seeking to create in the world. Scorpio, you have Wheel of Fortune and Nettle, which is about action. I should see this card more clearly. Let me get my glasses. Oh, it's a snake. I thought it was like a bunny laying on its back. Okay, so Wheel of Fortune action. So we're in a Wheel of Fortune year. You got a Wheel of Fortune card this month. This says to me this month is going to be an important one for you. And there's a way in which, actually what comes to mind is that you could have for a while now, Scorpio, felt like you were just spinning and spinning, like the wheel was just spinning, and you were like, am I going to be on this spinning wheel for the rest of my life? Like, when do my feet touch the ground again? There's something about this that feels like the wheel pauses, stops, and you can feel for a moment, like you lose the dizziness and you're like, oh, I see the road. Actually, I see what's ahead of me. And you are ready. Like, you are hungry to take action. It's almost like you've been put on pause or put on hold or in a delay that was frustrating and not self-imposed. Like, you've been kind of held back or tied back. And it's my picture is someone like running against like straps or bindings, and then the bindings get loose and they've already got so much momentum. What is that? Kinetic power? You know what I mean? Where like, it's like you're already built up all the momentum, and then the bindings get released, and then you just move and you cover so much more ground than you thought. This really feels good, Scorpio. It feels like such a massive yes, and it feels like that feeling of just feels good to stretch my legs. It just feels good to be on the road again. It just feels good to have a plan. Like, it's just something about it feels like ooh, you just kind of I've been saying this for a while. You can just like sink your teeth into it. And whether you don't realize it, but you've actually already been generating so much internal momentum that the action is even more satisfying. There's even more power behind it than you maybe would have anticipated or realized was possible. Sagittarius, justice, and Gotu Kola, which is higher consciousness. So, two things, Sagittarius. One, there is something, this is really in line with who you are, this higher calling activating the sense of what you're fighting for, what you're here to protect, that leadership thing I brought up before. There's something here about knowing what you're here to do and feeling yourself connected to a larger river of power and consciousness and creation. Like, it feels like showing up to do something that feels like, I don't know where I got this idea, and then you show up and there's 20 other people there and you're all on the same page, and it's like, wait, we're all moving towards something. We're trying to create something together. This feels very hearty, but different in a way than Scorpio's. It feels like it feels a little bit unsettling, but also like, I know what I'm supposed to do. The unsettling part is that it's it might feel bigger than you want it to. Like you might all of a sudden have this dream or this vision that it feels really, really big. And it feels like such a clear yes, but there's a gap of like, yeah, but how do I even get there? Like, where do I even begin? And there's something about the justice that reminds us that we like every action matters. And so I would say, like, begin where you are and know what the next right thing is, and it will lead you to something bigger. And you almost like don't have to hold the vision. It's like the vision is locked in on a higher consciousness. And so now your job is to, bring love to the streets. That's the famous justice idea. So what do I need to do today to, again, sustainability? But your sustainability has this sense of a higher calling. It has a sense of creating a more just world. I guess part of it is the ache of realizing how whatever you're designed to create, how it's already failing people or how it's already failed you. And so there's this duality of seeing what wants to become, feeling a little bit intimidated by how big that feels, and a little bit frustrated that not everyone else sees it. There's something about that too. Capricorn, 6 of Cups and Dandelion, which is the wounded healer. Okay, Capricorn, this says to me, this like speaks really clearly to some inner child work coming up this month. It could be that there's a recognition. Remember, I was saying in the overall podcast, this idea of like protecting something tender, something vulnerable. Maybe you realize where that hasn't been the case for you, or it hasn't been the case in the world, or where you haven't protected something that was tender and vulnerable. But there's something here about there's something here about taking whatever it was from childhood that hurt and like taking back responsibility for that small version of you, that younger version of you, and taking back the responsibility to protect them, and then turning that into a gift, turning that into a teaching, turning that into a motivation. So there's something really lovely here about nostalgia, childhood, harmony, and again, taking the wounds from that time and making them something beautiful, making some kind of art or teaching from that actually makes it into a gift. But the first movement is, I am also something worthy of protection, and I always have been, even when the world wasn't doing that for me. Aquarius, 5 of Swords and Dragon's Blood, Anima Mundi. So Aquarius. Okay. So what I feel here, what comes through is kind of a resignation. There's some battle that you've been engaged in kind of for a minute. It feels like maybe it's old, and it feels like maybe it's a battle that's repeated itself. So it's like you remember doing something like this as a child, and then it came up again, and now it's here again. There's something like, I've been fighting this battle for a minute, and it might come in different sizes and shapes and interactions, but it's some fundamental like challenge, battle, struggle, and you are done with that. You feel really, really done with that. And it's not that you feel defeated by it. You feel maybe a little sad that you've wasted time with it, but mostly it's that thing I was saying about the vessel. There's an emptiness. Like, if I'm not fighting that battle, like, what am I even doing? And this can be a sense, I don't want to, I'm not even going to narrow it down to what it could be like for you, but there's a sense of this fundamental battle that you've probably been fighting over and over again in a lot of dimensions in your life. And now you see how fruitless it is. And then as it kind of falls, as the swords kind of fall to the ground, there's just this emptiness of like, well, now what do I do? And I'll kind of repeat what I said. The excavation, the emptying out is happening, but you're not an unresourced, unsourced creature. So if you let there be space and tears and whatever else needs to be there, and frustration and lostness, if you let that just stay for a minute, something will bubble up. And what's interesting about this as it relates to the monthly energy is, if you let something else bubble up, it might not be what you expect, but it's 100% right. It's 100% what you need. And so congratulations for letting that go, because it feels like a pretty deep like programming that you're finally putting to rest. And you can be frustrated that you fought it for so long, but you can also be happy that you're free of it now. Pisces, we have the moon and ashwagandha, purpose. I love this for you, Pisces. The moon card and you are like akin, so you operate best in this way. And ashwagandha is like what it feels like. It feels like going into the dream place or going into some mystical realm and like catching something. And I remember I had a vision a long time ago, maybe like 8-9 years ago, where a teacher of mine in a dream gave me this net, and he was like, just wait to cast it till you're ready, because once you cast it, you'll get everything you need. And I had this image of like me among the stars, like holding and being patient and waiting to cast this net. Oh God, I haven't thought of that in so long. What a beautiful dream that was. Yeah. That's here with you, Pisces. It's like there's a part of you that's been adrift or unsure or like couldn't quite articulate what you were after. And there's some way in which like the right thing comes into view and you cast your net, and and I mean this in a mystical, metaphorical, like dream-like way. It's like you gather something in some liminal place, not in the light of day per se, but in making connections or in a dream you had or in a vision or in a meditation, or you see a movie or a piece of art or something happens and you're like, oh, that. And you almost like the fish hook, the star hook, like you almost capture it to you. You capture it to you, and it becomes a kind of North Star that you hold internally. It's really beautiful, Pisces. I love that for you. Anything you need to do to spend time in the nonlinear, I highly encourage that. The other image I keep kind of seeing in my mind is like a river and like all these treasures floating in the river, and you're like, okay. And then you're like, that one. There's something like that. It's really, really cool. All right, Pisces, I love that for you. Let me know what that's like. Pisces, Aries, Knight of Swords, and Cordyceps, which is a mushroom, and it says on here, revival? Can I read that? Revival. Okay, Knight of Swords and revival. Okay, Aries. This is like wake back up. Like something wakes back up in you, and you're like, all right, I was on a mission. I had a plan. There's something about coming back to life in some dimension of your life, in some dimension of the world, and no time to waste. So it's different than the Scorpio. But it must have something to do with this Mars energy, because Scorpio was like we cut the bindings and you were already like halfway down the field. With this, it's like you wake back up and you're like, oh my God, I gotta go. I got things to do. There's something about like no time to waste. Like, like life waits for no one. Something like that, where you kind of like come back to life and you're like, oh my God, I'm on it. And there's a passion and a drive and a momentum that's just been brewing, and then it's here for you. So whatever you wake back up into that you have a desire to move towards, again, it might not be what you expected it to be. It might not be what you thought was going to happen in 2026, but you thought was going to happen in August. But there's something of that, like almost like you snap out of it and you're like, oh my God, I got things to do. And you get back on that horse and you go. Full encouragement to do that, Aries, even if where you plan to go, or like where you are driven to go, doesn't kind of make sense. Still do it. Wherever that drive's emerging, trust it. Okay, for Taurus, 9 of Pentacles and Rose, love. How beautiful, Taurus. 9 of Pentacles is like a woman at home in her garden, and a woman, it's like the baby empress. So there's a sense of like contentment and containment and earthly protection. There can be a sense of isolation with this Taurus. But with the love card, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like this just deep pleasure and gratitude for the life you've created, for the world you inhabit. And this has the most gentleness of any of the other cards I've been feeling into. There's a sense of contentment that feels new and deep and rich. What does it tell you to do? There's kind of the sense of enoughness. And maybe there's something here about, okay, I'll just say this. I don't know if I'm just reading for myself or for Taurus in general, but like knowing that you can love and make connection and be held without walking away from your safety, your protection, your abundance. So with the Nine of Pentacles, there's a sense of her being self-contained, but also walled off because outside is scarier. Outside will require something different of her. Outside won't have the same pleasure and satisfaction. And there's something here about the love, and they're like holding hands. Like you can hold hands from that place. You can be loved without abandoning what makes you feel safe. Simple, but good luck to all of us. Gemini, Queen of Pentacles and Cacao initiation. So Gemini, Queen of Pentacles and Cacao initiation. It's interesting. It's not dissimilar from Taurus energy in that it's saying to you, like, you have enough. Like, initiation into this level of what do you call that? Not sustainability, not shepherding, but stewardship. That's the word. I don't into this level of stewardship that you maybe haven't stepped fully into before. And like with great power comes great responsibility, but it feels less like that and more like, oh, you have a lot of resources at your disposal, and maybe you discounted that. Maybe you didn't understand that before. And there's something about having so much that you begin to have to take your stewardship seriously. And that feels really good, Gemini. It feels very not Gemini energy because it's very grounded, rooted, responsible, wide-ranging. And it's something about taking your role in the world more seriously. And more like earthbound, like taking responsibility for your material abundance and your material impact. Interesting, Gemini. Very not on brand Gemini reading, but something important about this month being a doorway that you walk through where it's like, oh no, I'm going to take this seriously now. This is something that is mine to care for, maintain, and share with the world. And then Cancer, the Tower and Reishi, which is about retreat. So Cancer, this says to me something pretty big is going to get reshuffled this month. And there may be kind of a collapse of something that you've relied on in the past, and that is going to leave you feeling it's not very Cancer-like. It's like maybe there's some disruption in your home or some movement in your home. But what's interesting here is that the Rishi card looks like another tower. So it's like you leave something that felt like this is supposed to be it. That was supposed to be like, safe and steady here. And it's kind of dismantling. And so you kind of retreat to this tower, which actually feels much calmer. It's actually much more peaceful there than you're anticipating. So if you're making a change of space, residence, home this month, this says to me that it could say two things. One, there's a space within you, a home within you that you can always come to. Like there's something up here about a home that you can always come back to. And there's something here, and that whether it's internal or external. And it also tells me that whatever you're moving towards, it's actually much calmer and more safe than you've experienced in the past. So you might be surprised at that. Okay, that's what I have for you. My kids are banging around waiting for me to come out of this room. And you would think I had toddlers. I don't. I have teenagers. But they still need a lot of love, these teenagers. And I do love them very much. Okay, so August, let's be gentle. Let's think about sustainability. Let's take our time. Let's take it easy. Let's follow the road as it appears versus feeling like we have to know the whole show before we begin. I love you all.